Across cities in the United States, a powerful wave of activism is rising under the banner "Good Trouble Lives On." Drawing inspiration from the late civil rights icon Congressman John Lewis, who famously urged Americans to get into good trouble in the pursuit of justice. Thousands have taken to the streets in coordinated protests against former President Donald Trump's policies, both past and ongoing in political influence. A resurgence of resistance, the Good Trouble Lives On movement began as a grassroots response to the increasing concern over the resurgence of Trump-era ideologies in American politics. Although Donald Trump is no longer in office, his policies, legal battles, and growing political base continue to stir fierce debate across the country. Protesters gathered in over 40 cities on what was symbolically chosen as the anniversary of the Voting Rights Act, a nod to the legacy of John Lewis and the long struggle for civil rights. Demonstrators voiced opposition to Trump's past policies on immigration, voting rights, climate, LGBTQ protections, and the judicial appointments that have shifted the ideological balance of the U.S. Supreme Court. Cities unite in dissent from New York to Los Angeles, from Atlanta to Minneapolis. The protests were marked by marches, teach-ins, community events, and candlelight vigils. In Washington, D.C., thousands gathered at the National Mall, holding signs with messages like "Democracy demands accountability" and "No more tyranny in disguise." In Atlanta, a city closely associated with John Lewis' legacy, activists rallied at the historic Ebenezer Baptist Church, echoing Lewis' call to redeem the soul of America. Meanwhile, in Texas and Florida, protests also included acts of civil disobedience, with demonstrators intentionally blocking highways or government buildings to symbolize the urgency of their cause. Key issues at the forefront. At the heart of the protests are several key grievances tied to Trump-era policies and their lasting effects. 1. Voting rights suppression. Protesters pointed to the rollback of voting rights protections under Trump and subsequent state-level laws that restrict voter access, particularly for marginalized communities. 2. Immigration. Anger remains over policies like family separation at the border, the Muslim travel ban, and the termination of DACA deferred action for childhood arrivals. 3. Climate crisis denial. Demonstrators decried Trump's withdrawal from the Paris Agreement and deregulation of environmental protections, calling for urgent climate action. 4. LGBTQ rights. Protesters criticized Trump's efforts to ban transgender individuals from the military and the rollback of protections for LGBTQ+ Americans. 5. Judicial power. Many fear that Trump judges and Supreme Court justices will continue to shape U.S. policy for decades, especially following rulings on abortion, affirmative action, and gun rights. 6. January 6 Capitol attack. Protesters demanded accountability for Trump's role in inciting the insurrection and emphasized that democracy must not be taken for granted. Voices of the movement. Speakers at various rallies included civil rights leaders, environmental activists, immigration advocates, and everyday citizens who shared personal stories of how Trump-era policies disrupted their lives. We are not just resisting a man, we are resisting a movement of authoritarianism and injustice, said 26-year-old Chicago protester Tanya Alvarez. John Lewis gave us a roadmap, and we're walking it, marching it, and fighting on it. Prominent figures like Rev. William Barber, Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley, and activist Bree Newsom addressed crowds or released solidarity messages online, urging Americans to stay mobilized through the upcoming election cycles. Looking ahead, with the 2026 midterm elections on the horizon and Trump still playing a dominant role in Republican politics, organizers of the Good Trouble Lives On movement say they are not going anywhere. They vow to keep the pressure on elected officials and to continue the legacy of peaceful yet persistent resistance. Activist networks have announced plans for voter registration drives, policy education forums, and additional nationwide actions in the coming months. The movement, they say, is not just reactive, it's proactive, building a long-term strategy for change rooted in justice, equity, and community empowerment.